In this virtual learning environment, is the home an extension of the classroom? In today's Choice Conversations, we look at two cases putting this question front and center.
So Nyron, your first reaction when you found out that Kamari might have been in trouble, how did you first react to it?
Well, I was disappointed, as any father would be, that there's that they're getting bad information or bad news on their son's behalf, that he's misbehaving or being disobedient. You don't want your child to be painted in that light, and you don't want him to be acting out of, out of the norm when he's not around you, want him to act the same as he would if he was around you.
Right. So what were you told initially was the problem by the school system?
Well, initially I was told by my fiance, Kamara's mother, that he had been in trouble for for having the toy BB gun on the screen while he was supposed to be doing his lessons, and that's how it was delivered to me initially, you know. So my first conversation with the school was with his teacher, Ms. Williams, and that conversation went well because she pretty much, it changed my whole emotion. It changed everything that I initially thought. It changed everything after speaking with her because she confirmed the story that Kamari had given to me on his explanation for what had happened. She confirmed it, and he was telling me the honest truth. Aside from what I was assuming from getting a phone call from the school, I assumed that this, he was in the wrong. I automatically assumed he was in the wrong, and I listened to him, and then I listened to his teacher and the principal and the behavior interventionist, and I put it all together, and it all made sense, that it was just a big misunderstanding, in the school, and I felt the school owed Kamari an apology, just as well as me for assuming that he was automatically in the wrong just because I received, a phone call from the school, lesson learned by me.
So basically, he was just trying to move the BB gun out of the way from his little brother, so his little brother wouldn't have any problems.
Yes, ma'am. That's what it came to be, and as unbelievable as it may sound, that was his story to me, and that's what he was supposedly in trouble for, So and any parent who, if you get a phone call like that and your child tell you that, you probably assume that they're probably, telling just their side of the story and not giving you the full story, being that they're a child. But, in this case, my son was telling me the correct story and exactly what had happened, the same thing that three other adults told me directly after, you know.
When did you know that it was time to go to the next level, that it was more than just accepting what was handed down, but you had to take this cause to another level?
Well, when I was conversating with the principal of my son's school, we wasn't coming to an agreement on the egregiousness of the disciplinary action being taken against him. They were recommending that he be expelled. Had he just been, kicked off the computer just for that day or something to that degree, minorly to where I had to get a phone call or email from a faculty staff member, I feel like, just me having to get involved, in it is a serious matter, and whatnot, but the degree of him being recommended for expulsion, I felt like it was kind of outrageous, and due to the fact that they, told me that he wasn't doing anything but taking a test.
Your reaction when it became clear that this was more than Kamari's story, that there were other families involved, that a state lawmaker found out about it, and there was a bill that was drafted to address this. How did you begin to process all of that?
Well, you just off me sitting here having a conversation with you now, I'm able to talk about it more freely and be more, more adherent to the situation. But I was disappointed at first, but the support of everybody across the world and all the different lawmakers and everything, it kind of justified, me stepping out and on a limb and challenging a higher authority. It kind of justifies that, and it shows me that I was right in doing so, and it shows me that it means something when you step up for something that is right. You could be helping more than just your cause.
What life lesson is Kamari taking from all of this? Because not only did you step up and go to Baton Rouge and testify for this bill that did make it through both chambers of the state legislature, he also spoke as well. What's he taking away from all of this?
I would hope that he's taking away from it that adults can be wrong, just as well as children, and adults can it's nothing wrong with adults having to man up and apologize to adolescent, to the youth, to a child. I hope he's taking from it that, when you're accused of doing something wrong, long as you stand on what you did and tell your truth, that you deserve a fighting chance, of justice, And and I know he can't see it all at once at the age he's at right now, but with all this documented,
The bill is named
documentation
after him.
of events, it's gonna follow him for the rest of his life,
How's he doing, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, he's doing okay. He's having a hard time, catching up to speed with the new school he's in, and he's in the new school now, and he's going to be starting school Thursday in person. So it's a lot of curves for him right now, and he don't get to take as many breaks as the other kids because he has to catch up and whatnot. But he has a new costume, the marshmallow costume that he wanted and was asking for, and he gonna get to enjoy October, Halloween with his siblings. So we gonna make the best of it no matter what, and I think he's seeing that we trying to make the best of things,
Do you have any advice for other parents who, not even if it's the same situation, but advocating for their child? What advice would you give?
The advice I would give them is to keep doing what they're doing. Somebody's always listening and somebody's always watching, and there's always a higher power, higher than all of us, that's watching, and you never know what lies ahead. So keep doing what you're doing, and if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything,
Do you think before all this started, you would have this much courage to advocate so strongly for Kamari and also for other young kids and families? Did you know you were made of this stuff?
Didn't, but I do now, and it was it's a great life experience, and it taught me a lot, and it showed me a lot that that we're not just in this world alone. There is a higher power. There is, and justice can be served in different ways, in forms.
Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts? And even to you, Chelsea, if you'd like to have a final thought as well, based upon what Nyron said.
No, I mean, I think that it's important that we thank the Attorney General's office for, seeing this, and Representative Romero, as well as Representative Cleo Fields, and all of the legislatures for recognizing that the legislature and the Capitol is no place for a 9-year-old to go and plead his case. And the fact that we had to go to the Capitol 5 times to meet with the Attorney General, with the Senate, with the House, and to plead Kamari's case and Tomie's case, we just really want to thank everyone that came to bat for these children and work together and in such a quick manner. I mean, we're talking a 1 month turnaround from Kamari's expulsion hearing to breaking it to WDSU and the advocate to the attorney general getting involved, to the legislator getting involved. We can't express our gratitude enough for the people that played a role in creating the Kamari Harrison Act and doing what they've done to help assist clear the records of my clients and future children, that can get lost in these school systems.
All right, very good. You want to say something else, Nyron, or are you just agreeing?
I definitely agree with everything she just said. They made this process so much easier for me and my family. We were so comfortable at the Capitol, testifying on behalf of HB 83, and I want to thank those guys as well. They played a big part in this.
Tim, let's begin with you. When you found out or got the call that your son, Tomie, may have been in trouble, what was your first reaction to what you heard?
My first reaction was, I really didn't quite understand what was the problem. This would happen during virtual training. So I received a phone calls from the principal. So she just said that Tomie displayed his BB gun during virtual class. Okay, I really didn't think it was going to, definitely didn't think it was going to evolve into all of this, but, I asked him what happened, and because he hadn't mentioned anything. And, they saw my BB gun. That was it. So I didn't think much of it other than, we're going to go down there and they're going to tell him to not have his BB gun in the background, or, I wasn't expecting all of this,
You said it well when you said, you thought he was going to get a slap on the wrist, and then it turned into what it turned into.
Correct. I expected it at worst they would ask him to, not show it, or he'd get a little slap on the wrist, please don't do this again. And that wasn't the case.
Immediately, did you recognize that this was more than just he displayed his BB gun? It would be a slap on the wrist. Was it clear from the beginning of the conversation with the school officials that this was much more serious?
Well, no, it wasn't clear. My meeting at the school with the principal the next day started off with her telling me what a wonderful son I had, and Tomie never gets in trouble. He's one of the best students at Grand Isle School, and I'm still in the thinking that he's going to get a slap on the wrist, and up to the point she slid the disciplinary document in front of me and him and told us she was recommending him for expulsion. Now at that moment, the conversation kind of turned, shocked, and one of my first reactions was I'm not straight up asked her, or told her I feel I should get a lawyer at this point, or should I? Because the word gun in school is not a good combination.
But he didn't bring a gun to school.
Correct.
No, he didn't bring a gun to school. The BB gun was in his home. So Chelsea, is this a question basically of whether or not in this virtual learning world, what happens in your home is an extension of the school?
So I would say that Jefferson Parish School Systems is taking the position that while the camera is on, what happens in your home is an extension of the school. I believe that is anything but due process and a violation of multiple state and federal constitutional rights, not only for children participating in virtual learning, but for parents whose homes that these incidents and acts are occurring in. So yes, the crux of this issue is a privacy one, but it's so much more than that, Monica.
So much more than that. Are you surprised too, Chelsea, as the attorney, not only for Tomie and Tim, but for Kamari and for the uh, for
Well,
Nyron, that
and the Coleman family.
and the Coleman family? Are you surprised in the Coleman family as well? Are you surprised that this has struck a chord with so many, even in a bipartisan way, or even for other families?
I'm honestly, when I took this case, Kamari's case, I knew Nyron, and I told him, he called me, he said, Chels, let me tell you what happened to my son. Does this seem right to you? And I said, absolutely not. This is crazy. Let me jump on the hearing tomorrow, and it'll take 1 to 2 hours of my time and it'll be done. Same thing as Mr. Brown. We jumped on the hearing, and as their position unfolded, I was shocked. And as an attorney who has been doing civil rights litigation, as well as, a litany of other types of extensive federal court and state court lawsuits protecting people's rights, I immediately was just terrified as to the position that the school system was taking. And so when they continued to take the position, and they continued to fight with me about the merits of what they perceived to be a authorized government action, and me believing it was anything but that, no, I wasn't shocked that it gained the media attention that it gained, nor the support of the legislatures in a bipartisan manner, because it spans something that everybody can agree on. That's the right to privacy in your home. And it spans, while this isn't a Second Amendment case, it spans Second Amendment issues. They applied the way they applied their weapons on campus policies, to me, is a violation of the Second Amendment. Not that this is a Second Amendment case, because we're talking about BB guns, not rifles, but to indicate that these children have weapons on campus, and illegal carrying of weapons and possess weapons prohibited by federal law, that's a violation of the constitutional rights. And then to be telling you what you can and can't do in your home is a substantive due process violation. And then, Troxel, which is a Supreme Court case, gives parents the right to control their children's educational upbringing. So this extends beyond privacy. This interferes with Mr. Brown and Mr. Harrison and Miss Coleman's right to control their child's educational upbringing. It's so much further than this. So no, I wasn't surprised that the nation, not just the state and not just the legislature and not just the attorney general and not just the governor and not just the ACLU and not just the NRA, but I wasn't shocked that the nation was as outraged as I was.
Do you think this is all catching people by surprise in this quick, whether it's emergency learning or virtual world, that they may not have been aware that the systems thought that what they would see on camera in the privacy of your home was also an extension of the school?
So Monica, I think that's one of the most compelling pieces of this case, is that all three of these families started this school year with no instruction from the school or no statement indicating what happens in your home is an extension of the government classroom. They just willy-nilly did it after the fact. And now when they go to the legislature, they're testifying that, COVID was crazy for us. We didn't have time to write policies and procedures. We were operating, as best we could under the circumstances, but they haven't stopped to think, what about the parents and students? How do you operate as best you can to protect them as the elected officials put into place to protect them?
And Tim, please don't feel that you have to answer this question if you're uncomfortable, but how is Tomie doing? And what's he making of all of this? And he's also in the center of this legislative move and this history-making move.
I've tried to explain it to him. He doesn't get the ramifications of the big picture. And but to be honest with you, he's so ready to just go back to normal, everything back to normal. Of course, little kids talk at the lunch table, and they discuss this amongst themselves. But he just wants to go back to normal. He's a quiet, shy kid, and this is putting a lot of spotlight on him, and he doesn't like it.
Chelsea, now that both houses of the state legislature in Louisiana, they passed it with nobody who actually voting against it. What's the next step and what do you see going forward?
Well, Monica, it's sitting on Governor Edwards' desk. So to become a law, either a certain amount of time, I believe it's 10 days, have to lapse, or Governor Edwards signs it, or he can use his veto power. I can't speak for the governor's office. They have showed support in the past and have showed support in the beginning. I know that, you have to take into consideration what happened Friday with the petition and the COVID legislation and the fact that, they're under a firestorm, so to speak, with the legislature. They've butted heads with the legislature because of the petition. So I can't really speak as to what's going to happen. We're just really hopeful that the governor and the governor's office see the bipartisan nature of this bill and recognize the importance of the contents of it, and that survives what's happened in the legislative session and what happened at the end of the legislative session. So,
are you hearing from other school districts in other parts of the country, or even other families, about something similar?
That's how this started. That's how I found. That's how Mr. Brown found us. That's how the Coleman family found me. Multiple people in multiple states have reached out to me and asked me to collaborate with their attorneys on cases. I've heard from someone in Maryland. I've heard from someone in New Jersey. I've heard from someone in Colorado. People, but this story really resonates because it's 3 children, 3 BB guns, 10 days apart in the state of Louisiana, which people around the country, when you hear of Louisiana, you think of water boy, but yet we've got the legislature, creating a first. We passed the first Virtual Learning Act, and we did it in Louisiana, and we did it because of these cases and because these happened so close to the date in which the special session started. It was just luck that these incidents occurred, a week and 2 weeks prior to this special session starting. And so, this is getting nationwide recognition, as it should, because this isn't just a Louisiana issue. This is every state, every parish, every county issue.
Any final thoughts? So go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chelsea.
If you have a child in a public school system, whether it be in Louisiana or any state, you should be scared until policies and procedures are put into place to tell parents what your school system believes is taking place when that camera is inside of your home.
I want to give you a final thought or final word, Tim. Are you also ready for this to move on?
Oh, absolutely. I will say it's been an honor to participate in this law passing. It kind of makes you be a proud citizen of the state of Louisiana that this would pass, and to protect children, because they need it. Because parents' homes are not government property; they're not part of the school system, and for them to even assume that my house is their property is, that's goes against everything I was brought up to believe as an American citizen. And but yes, I'm so ready for this to be over with and get my son's name cleared and the other children. I mean, this is it's horrible. What's being done to these kids.
Representative Romero, House Bill 83, what exactly will it do now that it's made it through both houses?
So it's through both houses, and it's at the governor's office now on his desk, and we're hopeful that maybe next week, if he's favorable, he will sign that bill. And we're also hopeful that we can have Kamari and his family over and be a part of that signing process. And we have no indication that the governor won't sign it, but he's the governor and he gets to choose that. The bill, just to give you some idea of what it does, it's really a very good bill. And it's a bill that probably should have happened, or maybe didn't need to happen, but should have happened early on. When we got into this special session, with the COVID crisis going on, not just in Louisiana, but nationwide, we were we were thrusting students into a virtual situation that they weren't used to. They weren't used to being in a home environment or into a different environment. They were used to going to school, riding the bus and getting there. And so there were policies that weren't set up and ready to go for that type of learning. And it's at nobody's fault. It just happened that way because of that crisis. So the bill, for the most part, is in two parts. For the first part, it asks the school boards and the school superintendents to set up policies that allow students, and as well as their parents or guardians, to have the rules of what can be done inside the classroom, as well as in a virtual setting. The other side of it is if a child does get in trouble and does something that they feel is not right, whether it's a teacher or a principal or a superintendent, and they get expelled or an expulsion to a suspension, then they have an appeals process, and it lines out the things that the way that goes from the superintendent to the school board and then possibly to the court system.
Does it address at all whether or not your home is an extension of the school classroom or the building?
It does, in a sense. So we understand that there are privacy laws that are set up for a home, and that just because a child is or his parents or anyone that's in that household is in a setting that they're normally not accustomed to doing schoolwork in, that things can happen. Teachers can see things that they don't normally see. They have very good control on an in-school setting, so they know what the child has, on them or playing with them, and it starts once they get on a school bus, and whether that's at the school or whether it's at a school function, the school has good control, and they can see and know that those things are happening. But in a home environment, a private environment, the children are in their play environment at some point in time. They may be sitting at a dining room table, and what's behind them may be in the view of the teacher, and she may take something offensive or think that something's offensive, but maybe it's not, because that's not her home, it's their home. And so we wanted to make sure that they separated the two, and that's why we didn't want to tell them what to put in the policy, but we wanted to make sure that policy was set up so that both the teachers and the student could understand what the rules are and everybody could follow them.
Were you surprised by the bipartisan support, Representative Romero, of your measure? Because that's not always the climate in this country and even in this state.
No, but I think it's something that we need to strive for. And I think that's something that's been missing, not just on the national level, but on the state level. And we want to strive to have more bipartisan unity so that good bills come out of government and not so much of the fighting. No, I'm not surprised at all, because look, we're talking about every student in this state and maybe every student in the nation that is having to go through this issue of virtual learning. And they may go in and out of it. Some states may have less, or some states may have more virtual learning. So it's important that we set those parameters so that child and their guardian or parent and the teacher and the superintendents and the principals can be on the same page. And that way it's not a detriment to one or the other.
What impressed you the most about Kamari and Kamari's father, and even Tomie and Tommie's father, and through this whole process?
I think it was a family. It was a mother and a father who had a 9-year-old child. And look, this is not just about Kamari. There are other instances already in the state of Louisiana that are coming forward saying, thank you for helping us. Thank you for giving us an avenue to be able to solve this problem, to possibly get this off of a child's record. And so all of these families were desperate. They had no measure. They had no recourse in the situation that I'm talking about to appeal this process and to expunge their child's record. So I saw a father and a mother who genuinely loved their son, and a son who genuinely felt like he didn't do anything wrong. And to see that father would stand up for him and to give him hope that maybe through standing up, that something could be done. And I think that it's not just for the Harrison family. It's for all families. This is something new, and it's not on one side or the other. I didn't sit on one side or the other. I thoroughly support the teachers and the principals and the superintendents they have a job to do, and we just need to give them some direction as to what the rules are. Tell them the rules, and I think everybody can follow them.
Do you think that other parents, regardless if it's this kind of issue or something different, will learn how to advocate strongly for their children or their child?
I'm hopeful that they do. I'm a father, and I know that, if my child did something wrong, I would certainly want them disciplined. But I also understand that, there may be a time when there's a gray area, and to try to eliminate that gray area was very important to me and to all the others that supported this bill.
So how did this come on your radar to actually put together House Bill 83?
In a very interesting way, and it's funny how God puts us together. So I was walking into the Capitol with my wife to go to work, and the family was walking up to meet with the Attorney General, and my wife knew the story. Emily knew the story, and she said, "You need to meet this little boy. He's got an issue, and listen to him." So I shook his hand, and I talked with the family for just briefly, just for a few minutes, and then they went on off to the AG's office, and I went to my desk. When I got to my desk, I was intrigued because he's a beautiful little 9-year-old boy, and he just has a beautiful smile, and it was just something that I thought I needed to investigate. So I went online and read the articles, and I started kind of getting an idea and a feel for what was happening. And then after talking to Emily, we, kind of decided together that it was something important that I needed to take to the next level. So about an hour or so later, I called Jeff Landry at the AG's office, and I said, "Jeff, give me some insight as to what might happen." And he told me his side of the story, and he said, "Troy, you need to carry this bill. Let's write it up and let's work together and see if we can't get a good bill through the system." And after that, I had the chairman of the House Education Committee, Ray Garofalo, Chairman Garofalo, and he got on board, and a lot of other people, helped to try to get a really good bill that did something really good.
So if the governor signs it, when will it go into effect?
Immediately, as soon as he signs it. And we're hopeful that will happen next week. But I mean, like I said, the governor is the governor, and he works at his own pace, and he can make a decision as to whether that's a good bill for him and for the people of the state of Louisiana. And I'm hopeful that he does sign it, and I think he will.
Are you hearing from state lawmakers in other states about what they could do or how they could address something that may be similar?
I have not. I'm hopeful that maybe they will reach out, and if they do, I'll certainly help them get the information that they need to do what they need to do in their state as well.
Representative Romero, thank you for being with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for calling me. I appreciate it.
Open your eyes.